Welcome back to She Could, She Would. I have a very special project today. A family friend lost her husband a couple of years ago, and from the funeral service, I saved these mini roses and dried them out because I wanted to make a special box at some point that she could keep these in just as a little remembrance and, show her some continued support. That's what I'm going to do today. I thought it would be a good opportunity to try out a few new things, as always. So I have created my own veneers. I'm always trying to use up my scraps, so we have a bunch of different colors we're going to be working with. And I'm going to inlay some of the veneer into the box. This is my design idea. And so I'm going to do some kind of cross, and I don't know, these are supposed to be almost like sun rays or something coming in. And then I also wanted to do some nice decorative box joints on the side with a contrasting color. I thought I would use walnut this time because I think the veneers are going to look great contrasting off of this. And then I also wanted to try out a new jig that I made to make those box joints using the router. So we're going to try all that, and you know what, it's going to look great. So I'm really happy to share this with you, and thanks for being on the journey with me. In order to create my thin strips or veneers, either way you want to call it, I went ahead and put my saw blade approximately 1/16 away from the fence. And I also took a board as a stop block and I clamped it down on the end here so that as I put my wood through, it's going to go in a straight line, and then I just flip it over and follow through with the other side and get my thin strips. Let's try it out. I've got my thin strip hanging on by a literal thread here, if you could see in the middle. So I'm going to take my hand saw and just go ahead and slice through that so we don't have anything breaking off, putting it back through the table saw. And then I'll just sand that down. My first order of business was printing off a cross that I liked, and then I worked my measurements around that. So I'm going to do 6.5 inches by 4 inches, and I'm thinking for the height maybe only 3 inches because I really don't need it very high. I don't have that many roses. This is the piece of veneer that I'm choosing to go against the walnut. I think it'll be a good contrast. So the next step is to go ahead and put this on the veneer and start cutting it out, probably on the bandsaw. This is a freebie bandsaw I got years ago from a friend of mine. I had to create a table for it because it didn't even have that, but it's worked for some small projects, so I'm hoping it can hold up to the veneer and not crack it as we're going along. I'm going to be as careful as possible, and let's see how smoothly it's going to get through. Now that the pieces of the cross are all cut on the bandsaw, I'm going to go ahead to even up these lines and just start sanding away very, very gently and do every corner I can, get it as sharp as I can. And I went ahead and took this block and put some sandpaper on it so I can do the really fine edges. I'm ready to move on to the walnut panel here, and before I cut it for the box, I do need to run it through the planer because it is bowed a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do now. This piece of walnut is absolutely gorgeous, and it's got such a diversity of colors in it, but I think I'm going to use the lighter side for this box. So I'll get my height from this side, and then, we'll have our short side, long side, short and long, so we have continuous grain going around the box. So let's get to work on cutting the rest of this. A few things to point out before I cut the miters. First off, I label all the panels A, B, C, and D, and I label the outside as well as the inside. That way I know what position each panel should go in. I also mark off the miter corners here so I know which way to cut them, because it's sometimes easy to lose track and not realize you're cutting the wrong angle. But as you can see, I'm going for wraparound grain. So you have the grain here. And as we go along, it's kind of dark, so it's a little hard to see, but you can see the grain keeps going and then it continues to the next panel as well. So that is what the wraparound grain is all about. So I will get started on the miters now. I measured out 6.5 inches from the fence to the blade right here. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the bottom and the top of the box. I took a scrap piece of wood, and on my table saw, I just kind of made a rabbet all the way around it because I'm thinking I might want to do something like this to fit it in the bottom, and then I might actually do the same kind of top. So that's what I'm going to play with next and see where that takes me. Since my wood is approximately 1/2 inch thick, I want the center portion to be, it'll come out to be about 5.5 by 3 inches on the inside. So I am going to cut a rabbet around here so that it fits into place. I raised the blade approximately as high as I wanted the top to be able to show. So I'm going to run it through on all the corners and see what we come up with, and we'll test fit it. As I was getting ready to cut the rabbets in the top, I thought it would be kind of cool to add a little bit of the contrast of the maple against the walnut. So I took another hunk of maple that I had and started cutting some more strips. And I'm just going to put this in here. And then I have enough for the other side as well. And then I will continue on cutting these portions out so that this is the center. But this will be a cool little contrast, like a little highlight when the top is opened up. While I'm waiting for those maple strips to dry over here and here, I thought it would be cool to add just a little accent on the inside aside from these and do like a cross. So I did a test strip with my palm router, and I just put a piece of wood on the sides to keep a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and route that in, and then I can use those veneers to pop a cross in there as well. I think that'll add yet another detail. And I think it actually turned out great. I love the border around it. And I think it's going to be a nice little surprise when you take the top off the box and see the extra detail here that you weren't expecting. So this is the box. We have the bottom lid that is popped in. And then this one goes on the top like this. So I think it's probably time just to go ahead and start gluing this up. And while that's, the glue is setting, I'm going to go ahead and start working on the detail on top. And once this is glued, I will take a router bit and flush cut this so it's all even, and then work on some joinery on the sides, and then we'll be almost done. I've already taken the tape off of the box, and I think it came out great. I did take a screwdriver and kind of smush together these sides a little bit to cover up any gaps, but I think it turned out very well. I did put tape here because I like where it's sitting on this side. So I really just want to clean up the other three sides, and this will kind of keep this one in place, and then I will work on the bottom. The next step in the process is laying out the cross on top where I would like it, and I'm going to trace it and then also use this little knife to cut my lines out so I know where I am placing the veneer. So let's go ahead and very carefully do that. And I just have some tape on the backside to hold it down a little. Just going to do my best. I wanted to take a quick shot while I am moving around the box here, kind of getting all the pieces in. What I did was start with the router a little bit to see if I could do a little bit of a portion and get an idea of what depth I wanted for these pieces. And then I'm going around and just cleaning up everything with the chisel. So this is where I'm at. And it's not perfect. There's some chip out in here from the chisel because it's so close together. But, you know, a little sawdust and glue and we'll take care of that. That was a whole lot of chiseling. I didn't anticipate how much chiseling it would be and how hard it would be with these tight gaps to get everything perfect. So it's going to definitely take some sanding and glue to fill in these gaps. But you know, once I do that, it's going to look just fine. Here's a close up and trying to show you the parts that broke off in here, but we'll fix it up. There's always a way to make things look better. You just got to be a little creative. After the glue dried, I planed this down a little bit. It's slightly proud of the height that it's going to be, but I wanted to leave it a little high so I could fill in the rest of the gaps with more sawdust and glue. So I'm going to keep working at it, but it's looking a little bit better now. It was pretty shabby before, but it's going to look great once I'm done with it. I took some more of my homemade veneers, and this is purple heart, cherry, and I believe rosewood. So I cut them into triangles, trying to make them a little bit different in sizing, and I'm going to trace them out now and then use the router if I can a little bit in here and then chisel it out. I do have to be careful because the lid is thinner around the half-inch edge and it's bulkier in the middle because remember it fits inside the box. So I just have to be super careful here. But I'll just go slow. Here's a quick progress report. I've got 3 of them in. These are much, much easier to chisel in here than this portion. Again, these are, there's barely any space here. It made it so difficult. These are like totally easy compared to that. But anyway, so I have 3 left, but we're making good progress. I just finished chiseling out this last portion. So the last piece is going in. Everything looks really good. I'm going to glue these in and let the glue dry. I'll fill in any gaps here that I see, same as here, and then sand everything down. But after that, the next step is just a little joinery on the sides of the box, and I think we'll be done after that. While the lid is drying, I am going to work on the corners of the box. Originally, I made this jig for the router, palm router, and I was going to place it on the sides, and then you place the jig on top of this and run it through. It slides through, if you can see that, and it makes a joint that is similar to a finger joint, but it's wider. So I guess you'd call it a box joint, if you can see that. So it would be a straight cut, but just wider than a finger joint. Looking at the box, I don't want to interfere with the flowing grain on the sides. And I also just don't think there's a ton of room here to take that big out of a chunk. I don't think it'll look as good as I thought it would. So I started thinking about splines instead, just to have a little accent. And then I messed with the table saw and put it at a 45-degree angle to make this joint almost like an arrow. So I like that idea. I think I'm going to do that. Now that my splines are all cut, I did cut a piece of maple to fill those in. This is 1/8 of an inch thick because that is the width of my blade. So I cut little triangles and filled everything in. This is what it is looking like. I've got them all in here, so I'm gonna glue them in now and let them sit, and then I'll take the saw and cut off the excess and sand, and we're about done. All the splines are dried, ready to go. Just gonna cut these off, and I'm gonna take my time doing it. And here's how the box ended up. I think it looks great. That grain is just fantastic along the sides, and then I like the little hint of the splines, kind of contrasting. The inside of the lid with the cross and the border, that came out great. It's literally almost perfect. And then when you flip it over, of course, that is the highlight, all those inlays contrasting against the maple. Really, really happy with how it came out, and I think my friend will be feeling the love for sure. I went ahead and put the little roses in for her from the funeral, and I think I'll have to have a box of tissues ready to go. In any event, thanks for joining me, and I really hope you list any comments or questions you have, and please subscribe. Again, it helps me make more videos for you, and just tell me what you want to see, and I'd love to make those videos. Have a good one.